Politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
It's Mark Dolan in for the big man, Mark Steyn. In my big opinion, in just a moment, I'll be dealing with Harry and Meghan and that documentary. Forget about stripping Harry of his titles. Take away his bloody passport as well, as far as I'm concerned. Treason doesn't even go there. And how will the press react to this story? And was it wrong for Harry to invoke the memory of Diana? We'll speak to the man who made Diana a star, former national newspaper editor Kelvin Mackenzie. Are they the wokest couple on earth now? Is their popularity a victory for the woke movement? I'll ask the voice of common sense, Britain's fiercest journalist, The Spectator's Toby Young. And how is this documentary going to go down in the States? We'll head to Hollywood, California, and the queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. But first, it is my big opinion. I'm not pulling my punches, and we'll get reaction from top royal historian Andrew Lowney. Could Harry and Meghan bring down the British royal family? I'll be asking him that following the headlines with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Mark. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The mother of Harry Dunn says her promise to get justice for her son is now well and truly complete following the sentencing of Anne Sakoulas for causing his death by careless driving. The wife of a US diplomat received 8 months in prison, suspended for 12 months. In 2019, she was driving on the wrong side of the road when she hit the 19-year-old and later pleaded guilty to causing his death. Mrs. Sakoulas says she's deeply sorry for the pain she caused. Speaking outside the court, Harry's mum, Charlotte Charles, praised the verdict and a warning for those watching on television. This clip contains flashing images.
You know, Anne Sakoulas has a criminal record for the rest of her life. That was something that, you know, she never thought she'd see, the US government never thought that they'd see. And we've worked tirelessly and relentlessly to make sure that she, in the end, still had to do what you and I would have had to have done. So, yeah, Harry, we've done it. And we're good.
15 children under the age of 15 have now died from strep A. The UK Health Security Agency says 13 have died in England since September, whilst Northern Ireland and Wales recorded 1 death each. Health officials say there's currently no evidence of a new strain, and the rise in cases is due to bacterial transfer during increased social mixing. Waiting lists for routine NHS treatment in England have hit a record high, and A&E performances are now at a record low. According to the NHS, 7.2 million people were waiting to start routine treatment at the end of October, and just 67% of A&E patients were seen within 4 hours of being admitted. Ambulance response times have improved, but are still more than 40 minutes behind the 18-minute target. The government has defended its decision to open the first UK coal mine for 30 years, saying it will create hundreds of jobs. The Levelling Up Secretary has given planning permission for the new mine in Cumbria, despite a government commitment to phase out coal. COP26 President Alok Sharma called the decision a backward step for UK climate action. Speaking to GB News, Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves refused to say if a future Labour government would close the pit.
We want to create jobs in the north of England, including in Cumbria, but we will be doing that by investing in the jobs and the industries of the future. We've got today a fossil fuel Prime Minister in the age of renewables, investing in the industries of the past rather than those of the future.
And senior palace sources are denying claims that the royal family declined to comment on allegations made in the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's Netflix series. Now, it's understood that Kensington Palace did receive an email from a third-party production company, but attempts to verify it received no response. Now, that contradicts a statement made at the start of the programme. In the series, Harry accuses the royal family of a huge level of unconscious bias. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News, the People's Channel. Back now to Mark.
Good evening. Well, that's 3 hours of my life I won't get back. It made the recent root canal surgery that I had pleasant by comparison. I'd be quite happy for my psychotic dentist to tear out a couple more teeth with no anaesthetic than to have a go through that again. Take a look.
I think it's safe to say that I come from a very different background than my incredible wife. Yet our lives were brought together for a reason. We share a commitment to a life of service.
Yes, indeed, and a life of self-service. These two may see themselves as leading lady and leading man, but be clear, this is no cinema classic, just a third-rate horror film meets romantic comedy. It was scarier than The Shining, more vomit-inducing than The Exorcist, and more laughable than The Hangover 3. A 120-minute car crash in slow motion, this self-congratulatory, indulgent, self-pitying ego marathon may fill the coffers of this young couple, but the price they'll pay is a huge one. This film is a suicide note in celluloid and marks the end of Britain's relationship with Harry. Once its proudest son, of course, and don't forget this is a man whose popularity PM, pre-Meghan, was second only to the Queen herself. In this film, the couple complain about the hierarchy of the royal family. Yes, guys, it's a monarchy. They tend to be quite hierarchical things. I'm so sorry that no one warned you. Just be glad they don't behead people anymore. Never say never. This hierarchy thing is such a novel idea, isn't it? It must have been a shock to Harry when he was in the military and had to answer to a sergeant major. Did that impact his mental health as well, I wonder, when he was flying airplanes over Afghanistan? When it comes to their alleged poor treatment by the palace when serving as active royals, Harry and Meghan have become the boy that cried wolf too many times. We've had 2 years now of hearing how tough it's been for a couple now rattling around a Montecito mansion, which we're told boasts 16 toilets. Well, this couple are stuffed up to the esophagus with enough BS to fill all of them. And it's all me, me, me. This couple are so narcissistic they make Donald Trump look like a shrinking violet. So they're up themselves, as this film demonstrates, but they're stupid too. Yes, they're making a lot of money, but they haven't read the room. As they rant about how terrible their lives are, jetting around the world in private jets, being handed bizarre human rights awards, Brits at home are struggling with the cost of living. For some, switching on just one radiator in one room might break the bank, whilst Harry and Meghan laugh all the way to theirs by trashing an institution the public paid for handsomely and which made these two famous. Meghan was quite happy to dump Britain and dump the royal family. She has a long history of ghosting people. She did it to Piers Morgan, who introduced her to the UK media scene. When she met Harry, the calls stopped. My good friend, showbiz queen Lizzie Cundy, put an arm round this mediocre actress when she came to Britain and made her welcome. Lizzie Cundy there added to the list of people who have ceased to be useful to this ambitious young social climber. And she showed the ultimate ruthlessness in dumping her own father, Thomas Markle, a man who, it's well reported, supported and loved her as a father and helped facilitate her dream of becoming an actress, even paying for acting lessons. I've got to say, if I was Thomas Markle, I'd go to the acting teacher and ask for my money back. Have you seen Suits? In this documentary, the race card is played big time with a tedious lecture about British colonial history, forgetting that unlike us, America imported slaves to their own country and had effective apartheid until the 1960s. It's hinted that the royal family and the British media, and maybe even the British people, were so horribly racist that's why the couple had to move on. I don't remember any racism when Markle was welcomed into the bosom of the royal family, particularly by the Queen herself. Markle has admitted the Queen was always a very loving and supportive figure. I don't remember any racism towards the couple when thousands lined the streets for their wedding. And I don't remember any racism when all of the press put the couple on every front cover for months on end. The look of love. What a great headline. Or how about this from the Daily Mail, as Meghan's beautiful mum Doria gives her away. They write, a magically modern royal wedding. I've got plenty of friends in Fleet Street. Let me tell you, when Meghan Markle came along, the response was overwhelmingly, resoundingly positive. Far from seeking to demonise or castigate this woman, they were celebrating. They thought they'd found the new Diana. Now, far be it from me to say definitively whether there has or has not been a racist undertone to the treatment of Meghan Markle in some quarters, both here and abroad, by a nasty section of the press, potentially, the public, or even the royal family themselves. And if that is the case, then it is truly horrific. But I do have one question. Was Sarah Ferguson, or Fergie as she's known, the victim of racism when the press ripped her a second backside every 10 minutes when she was married to Prince Andrew? She got dog's abuse. What about Prince Edward, who has been mercilessly mocked for his whole adult life? And what about Harry? Is he the victim of racism too? Can you be racist about Harry, a privileged white British man? So let's just clarify this. He's getting all of this invective and these attacks, and it's not racism, but Meghan Markle is, and it is. Perhaps Harry is a victim of racism towards red-headed people. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Not from me, of course. Some of my favourite people are redheads. What a dreamboat. Don't knock a bit of ginger till you've tried it. Gingers aside, I think the public will see red when they watch this rubbish. This couple have burnt their bridges and have reached the point of no return. So my review for this film is a simple one. I'm giving it 1 star. Even though Meghan should get an Oscar for her performance, I almost believed she was real. Rest assured, I won't be watching the next instalment. They don't pay me enough to go through that. And anyway, I've got an appointment with my dentist. Drill, baby, drill. Now, reacting to that is a very, very clever man. It is the author of the best-selling book, Traitor King, The Scandalous Exile of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. And he joins me now. Andrew Lowney, welcome to the programme.
Very nice to be on it.
The title of your book, A Duke and Duchess in Exile, very topical.
Yes, it's fascinating to see the parallels. I mean, this is the charismatic prince who marries an American divorcee, breaks off with his family, blames bad parenting for the problems, blames them for cutting him off financially, has debates over the security, tries to curate the story with tame biographers and journalists, gives rather embarrassing interviews to the press, indulges in lawsuits against various people, exploits the royal brand, promoting everything from cutlery to furniture. And that was the Duke of Windsor. So it's in the playbook. I mean, whether they've read it or not, it's just history repeating itself.
Do you think this couple have the potential to bring down the British monarchy? Because it's quite clear that their campaign against the royal family won't end with this documentary series, and it won't end with the forthcoming book.
No, I think it is a dangerous moment. You know, it's a vulnerable moment. We had a long-standing queen who commanded respect and affection. It's changed now. People are more prepared to criticise the monarchy. And, you know, it went well for several weeks, months, but I think they are very dangerous. She's a very manipulative an ambitious woman who's used Harry to leverage her own personal ambitions. But it's vindictive and vicious, and we saw intuitions today with the programme, you know, comments about, for example, the Princess of Wales and being married only because she's sort of dutiful. You know, really nasty comments. And this is what they're doing, this drip feed of stuff that they're hinting at. But you're right, and I mean, who knows what will be in the book.
Yes, I mean, you know, is there, I guess, you know, the essence of your book is that there are historic parallels. Has the British monarchy ever faced such peril from one individual or a couple? Because, I mean, last time with Edward and Mrs Simpson, it was scandal, wasn't it?
Yes, and he went pretty quietly. I mean, he was embarrassing, and clearly there were stories about these associations with Nazis which were covered up and only really come out in the last few years. So that story was killed. I mean, he was sent into exile. But we now have social media, we have a less deferential press, we have people questioning the monarchy, and so I think it is much, much more dangerous. And of course, there's Andrew in the wings, and who knows what else? I mean, King Charles rather, and Dumfries House and the cash for honours. You know, there are lots and lots of things which the press are looking at the moment.
However, I wonder whether global public opinion is less of an issue for the ongoing existence of the monarchy. It's about what Brits at home feel, and I wonder whether, given the fact that Meghan Markle polls consistently negatively in this country, whether the British public are quite sanguine about the brickbats being thrown at us from Montecito, California.
Well, in some ways it is helping the monarchy. I think there's a great deal of sympathy. You know, the royal family are dealing with this with dignified silence. I mean, they're you know, very, very dutiful. And I think these, you know, everyone here can see through them. But the problem is there is a narrative being created elsewhere, and that narrative may come to this country. People begin to believe it. You know, we had Olusegun talking about racism here. A ridiculous argument that he was making, you know, talking about the Commonwealth being Empire too. But these things, you know, do seep into people's consciousness, and I think there is a real danger that people begin to believe some of this stuff.
Why was he wrong to characterise the Commonwealth as Empire too?
Well, because I think many members of the Commonwealth are very supportive, you know, are very grateful to, in some ways, being part of the Empire and the links and the royal family's work in the Commonwealth. And I thought it was a very nasty dig at the Queen. You know, they made various comments and then cut to pictures of her. You know, they just seem to have no sense. And she could well have been alive when this programme came out. There seems to be no sense of any decorum at all about the way they behave.
And you're an esteemed historian and royal biographer, and I just wonder whether this couple, in a cheap US documentary, are trying to rewrite British history. Because it's presented in a very partisan way. We know that there are huge problems and huge horrors within the Empire story, but it feels very slanted how they've characterised it.
Yes, and I mean, trying to equate Mexit with Brexit, you know, I think the whole tone is set by the disclaimer at the front saying we asked for a comment from the royal family and they didn't decline to comment. Well, they're now saying they weren't even approached. And time again, this is a very partial, one-sided view of what has been happening. And it's a shame that we can't get some sort of balance. The media are doing their best, but to respond and deal with some of the allegations that have been thrown about.
Andrew Lowney, I've already sorted out my Christmas reading, and it's your book on Wallis and Simpson. Thank you so much. Look forward to catching up in the near future. Coming up, are Harry and Meghan the most woke couple in the world? Is their massive global media footprint a victory for progressive lefties everywhere? I'll ask the associate editor of The Spectator, Toby Young. How will the press react to this story in the weeks and months ahead? Is it the beginning of the end for Harry and Meghan as a brand in Britain? I'll be asking ex-Sun editor Kelvin McKenzie live in the studio. But next, how is this story playing out in America? We'll speak to the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. See you in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
OK, well, we've been running a text poll based upon a simple question, which is, could Harry and Meghan bring down the British monarchy? And I believe we got the results, so let's take a look. And here we are. Well, it's a landslide victory for no. 87.8% say no, they cannot bring down the royal family. And 12.2% say they are a threat. Let's get to your views right now, and we shall start with Peter. Could Harry and Meghan bring down the British royals? Peter says the people are fed up with this pair now. Charles should strip them of their titles and let them be Mr. and Mrs. See how much money that will generate for them. I hear what you're saying, Peter. My concern is that if you strip them of their titles, they're still among 2 of the most famous people in the world now. Peaky has tweeted this one in, and he says, I think the royal family are quite capable of bringing down the monarchy all by themselves without any help from Meghan and her husband. Eve says, could we stop caring and figure out what they're meant to be distracting us from instead? And Neil says it will be the royal family itself that will bring down the monarchy, Charles and Wills, especially if they continue to go down the net zero climate change garbage route the politicians and establishment figures are espousing. Thanks for those emails. I do appreciate it. Now, the Harry and Meghan royal documentary dropped at 8 a.m. this morning, UK time. Let's get some global reaction. How is this bombshell series being received in the United States? Let's speak to the queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kinsey.
Mark, I wish we could have watched this thing together. It was the most bizarre roller coaster. I mean, while being kind of boring. I mean, just a roller coaster of contradictions. Meghan stressing to us that she wasn't the pretty girl. She was the smart girl. She's the smart girl that doesn't know anything about protocol, doesn't know to open a book to know how to curtsy, doesn't know the national anthem. You can't be lost all of the time and also be the smart girl, Meghan. It's called Google.
Yeah, it most certainly is. We've got the receipts, haven't we, Kinsey? First of all, how does this documentary work as a piece of television? Is it entertaining? Is it engaging? What's your appraisal of it as a TV critic?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was less entertaining because it felt like we were just exaggerating the Oprah Winfrey interview. I mean, there was not a lot of new content. I mean, visually, it was stunning. I thought Harry came off much more authentic than Meghan did. I don't know. I mean, for the most part, it was just kind of like, when are we going to get to the good stuff? We're 3 hours in, Mark, and they're not married yet.
Are they running out of material as a couple? How many more TV series can we have? How many more books? How many more podcasts?
Well, you just made a really good point when somebody said, let's strip them of their titles right now. If we strip them of their titles right now, and of course I would love, nothing more. But the reality is, if they are stripped of their titles, here comes another season of this. It's victimhood. This is all they need. This is the fuel they need. Chris Rock is going all over the country right now using Meghan Markle as an example of the 3 ways to get famous in this country. And becoming a victim is one of them. And he uses Meghan as an example. So if you do strip them of their titles, you hand them a whole new storyline. I do think, I've had people message me that said they went ahead and canceled their pre-order of Spare because they're saying, what's left for you to say? I'm hearing everything I've heard it on Oprah. I'm hearing it in this docuseries. So I do think that they're running out of content.
And how is this documentary series going down in America? What's the reaction? I know it's a big story, but are they being received favourably?
Mark, I'm sorry. I hate to tell you this, but I am seeing a lot of positive press about this. But keep in mind, Harry and Meghan have friends in high places. You turn on CBS and there's Gayle King, Oprah Winfrey's best friend forever, giving a glowing review about how brave they are and how incredible this documentary is. I think that there are 2 things happening here. It's that they do have very powerful friends, but I also think that they are no longer royalty. They are celebrity. That means they're attainable, and the American media is going to cater to them in the hopes that one day they'll sit on their couch or they'll get that exclusive interview with them.
You are one of America's most revered royal journalists. You've dedicated most of your life to the royal family, even though you're an American. I think you fell in love with Diana when you were a little girl. And your wonderful website is called To Die For Daily, and it's full of royal exclusives, but it's dedicated to the memory of William and Harry's mother. What are your emotions at this point as you watch this documentary to see a family that I think you love being attacked so consistently?
Well, I mean, also it feels like they're hijacking Diana's story. They're hijacking that grief. There's this video of Archie and Meghan kind of dancing in front of this portrait of Diana, and Meghan saying, "That's your grandmother." That feels intimate. It feels vulgar. It feels I shouldn't have access to that, especially knowing that Harry's family hasn't even been in that room, seen that portrait, barely knows Archie. And it feels like Harry and Meghan are trying to take ownership of Diana's legacy because she is so loved by the entire world. Harry forcing us to compare Meghan and Diana. Diana was so gracious, kind, fun, flirty, just such a fun character when it came to staff. Meghan, we're hearing, is a bully, verbally abusive, unkind, made people cry. I mean, I feel like they're trying to hijack the Diana brand to elevate themselves. And I think that's really unfair to William and his children.
Now, of course, as you know, they're quite a litigious couple, Kinsey, and I guess we don't have any clear evidence that Meghan is a bully, but it's certainly been speculated that staff have been treated badly. What we can say is that they get through more assistance than you and I put together, and that's saying something. Can I ask you finally about William and Kate? Because Harry and Meghan are throwing them quite a lot of shade in this documentary, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. There's a specific part. I know Andrew went into one part where he talked about how Catherine was just, she played by the rules and that was why she is in the position she's in. But there's another part where Harry kind of says that Meghan should have special privilege. Although, despite the fact that Catherine was harassed, stalked, spit on, cursed at, Harry insists that Meghan should have special treatment and should be protected, even though Catherine went through the same thing. He's arguing that Meghan should have that special treatment. So, and then Meghan also comments about how she felt like they were too formal. She's barefoot and in torn jeans, and she was angry that nobody wanted to hug her. Maybe they just didn't know you. I mean, I've literally seen William and Catherine hug people, hug Mike in the on the polo field, and Catherine's nurse, she stumbled upon the woman that helped her give birth to her baby. She was surprised, threw her arms around her. These are lovable people, huggable people. They just didn't know Meghan.
It's been reported finally, Kinsey, that they've been paid in the region of $100 million by Netflix for this episodic documentary, the 6-parter, 6 hours of material, $100 million. They're already rich beyond their wildest dreams. How much more money can they make?
Well, keep in mind, I know that sounds like a lot of money for 6 episodes, but this is supposed to be a production, collaboration. Meghan was supposed to create Pearl, the cartoon. They canceled it. So, they could create additional content for Netflix that's not related. They are going to continue to make money, Mark. They're going to continue to make loads of money. I mean, just look at the amount of money people threw to sit in the same room with them and Alec Baldwin. I mean, I don't know who these people are. They're not my people, but there are people out there that are throwing money at the Sussexes.
The brilliant Kinsey Schofield, fantastic coverage, I've got to say, on Breakfast this morning, Kinsey, and you'll be back with me on Saturday night, Mark Dolan tonight, for more reaction to the fallout from Harry and Meghan's documentary series. Do check out Kinsey's website, To Die For Daily. Coming up, how will the press react to this story in the weeks and months ahead? Is it the beginning of the end of Harry and Meghan as a brand in this country? I'll be asking ex-Sun editor Kelvin McKenzie. But next, are Harry and Meghan the most woke couple in the world? Is their massive global media footprint a victory for progressive lefties everywhere? I'll ask the associate editor of The Spectator, Toby Young. Sparks will fly. You won't want to miss that one. See you in a mo.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Hey!
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's Mark Dolan in for the big man, Mark Steyn. As the world processes Harry and Meghan's bombshell new documentary series, is their massive global media footprint a victory for woke culture? As high-profile members of the global elite, this couple are not afraid to wag their fingers about equality, racism, or even climate change as they dart around the world in a private jet. Are they guilty of hypocrisy? And just how much of an influence on Western culture will this couple potentially have in the years to come? To discuss this, I'm delighted to welcome the brilliant political commentator, founder of the Daily Skeptic website, which I read every day, and the Free Speech Union, as well as being associate editor of The Spectator. He's got more gigs than I have. It's Toby Young. Hi, Toby.
Hi, Mark.
Is this a victory for woke progressives everywhere?
I'm not sure it is, actually. I mean, we have to see what kind of ratings it gets. I'm obviously hoping it'll tank. But in a way, it's almost like a parody of wokery. You know, to present themselves as victims. This is the name of the game if you're in the woke business. You need to present yourself as a poor, beleaguered, put-upon victim. And here are Harry and Meghan throughout this documentary essentially whinging about being victimised. You know, they're the victims of the royal family, which is institutionally racist. They're the victims of the voracious tabloid press, which is constantly invading their privacy, though it's a bit odd. You know, they've basically made their version of keeping up with the Kardashians, so complaining about invasion of privacy seems a little rich. But nonetheless, they maintain a kind of poker face and claim to be victims. They claim in this documentary to be oppressed by the forces of patriarchal, racist, colonial, etc. And yet, you know, here they are. Their net worth is probably approaching $100 million. They're going to get another $100 million for this documentary. They jet around the place in private jets, as you said. They have homes all over the world. They live in this fabulous spread in California. To present themselves as oppressed victims, as sort of to claim woke points in the oppression Olympics, seems almost like a parody of the culture of victimhood. You know, how seriously will people take the claims of people to be victims if Harry and Meghan, of all people, you know, this international glamorous royal couple with titles up the wazoo, can claim to be victims? Then surely from now on no one's going to take this kind of whinging claim to victimhood seriously again.
Has support for Meghan and Harry, or antipathy towards them, become a left versus right issue in the way that lockdowns were?
I'm not sure it is. I mean, I think they have become a kind of talismanic couple in the culture wars.
The Guardian are all over Meghan Markle like a rash, aren't they?
And, you know, I feel almost a bit sorry for those progressive publications choosing Meghan as their champion. I mean, she's going to disappoint them. You know, she's about the least credible champion of kind of wokery that you could possibly find, because she's led a life of such extraordinary privilege. I mean, the problem, I think, with taking them seriously, taking them morally seriously, and taking their condemnations of British society and the royal family seriously, is that you know, they kind of lack credibility. You know, they sort of complain that they had all these responsibilities they needed to discharge. They had to go on walkabouts. She had to learn how to wave and how to curtsy. She never had a moment to herself. She had to constantly think about what she was wearing, didn't want to clash colours with what the Queen was wearing. It's like, oh, woe is me, all the terrible... But, you know, to paraphrase Spider-Man, with great privilege comes great responsibility. You know, if you're going to live this extraordinary life, be given hundreds of thousands of pounds, grace and favour cottages, you know, pay paid to get out of bed in the morning. Well, you do have to do a couple of these things now and then that you might not find particularly convenient. With great privilege comes great responsibility. She knew that going in. Why is she complaining?
Definitely, and it's not like she wasn't under pressure in terms of her appearance when she was in Hollywood, because, of course, that's what Hollywood is all about, well accustomed to being in the spotlight. What about some of the sort of mood music around the interview? So, for example, this sort of rewriting of history as Britain having this appalling racist colonial past, glossing over the fact that we were far quicker to act on slavery than the Americans, who, unlike us, imported slaves into America and who had effective apartheid until the 1960s.
I mean, it's the narrative now that we hear on an almost daily basis, pumped out by the kind of liberal mainstream legacy media. Britain's this terrible racist country. Its economy is dependent on ill-gotten gains from the slave trade. The slave trade was at the heart of the British Empire. We are an evil empire and we need to do penance. We need to pay reparations to the rest of the world until the end of time. And it's all nonsense, you know, and they claim that no one's ever taught this. This is concealed from us in schools. We're told this fairy tale about them. No, this is all children are taught now. You're taught to be ashamed of your country, ashamed of your heritage and your history. What they neglect to mention is what distinguished the British Empire was not that it profited from slavery. Every empire in human history has enslaved people, virtually dating back to ancient Egypt. What makes the British Empire exceptional is that we abolished slavery and we devoted blood and treasure to ending the slave trade. That's what makes us exceptional, not the fact that we enslaved people. It neglects to mention also that more white Europeans were enslaved by North African pirates and slavers before Britain got involved in the transatlantic slave trade than black people were enslaved in the Caribbean and trafficked to the various colonies of America. Something like 2 million white Europeans were enslaved before the British Empire came along. We didn't invent slavery, we just stopped it.
They're doing their bit, it would seem, to destroy the British monarchy, and they're certainly hurting the royal family and the brand therein. But could they damage the special relationship as well? Because we know that William and Kate went to America and they were largely well received, but there were boos in some quarters. So is this damaging for UK Anglo-American relations?
You know, I spent some time at an American university in the late 80s. And I was very interested in the state of the special relationship. And I asked my various professors in the government department, you know, what did they think the fate of the special relationship was going to be? And they looked at me with complete mystification. They'd never heard. And these were professors of politics, international relations. They didn't know what I was talking about. And I felt like a kind of fan of Tom Cruise, who's got a picture back from him after sending him a fan letter. And now I think me and Tom have a special relationship. I'm afraid, Mark, the Americans don't regard it as a special relationship. That's a figment of our imagination.
But this, and I'm sure you're right, but the couple are defaming the country, aren't they? They're libelling us on a daily basis.
They are defaming the country, and it is actually shocking that they're profiting from running down Britain when Britain has given Harry and indeed Meghan so much. I mean, it's disgraceful, and I hope they suffer for it.
Well, I'm counting my blessings because I just got a hear from Kelvin Mackenzie, who's joined us in the studio. My thanks to the brilliant Toby Young. Check out the Daily Skeptic website, which is the best piece of journalism since the Sun newspaper in the 80s. How will the press react? Thanks very much.
Good segue.
How will the press react to this story in the weeks and months ahead? Is it the beginning of the end for Harry and Meghan in this country? I'll be asking ex-Sun editor Kelvin Mackenzie, who, as you've heard, is live in the studio, but he needs makeup. So can we sort that out, please? See you in 2.
Coming up on Dan Wootton tonight, as Harry and Meghan accuse Crown and Country of racism, even tearing down the late Queen's legacy by condemning the Commonwealth, Dan gives his unflinching take with royal insiders at the heart of the saga, including Tom Bower, Lady Colin Campbell and Phil Dampier. Plus, Meghan's sister Samantha Markle reacts to being cast as the villain of her story. Join Dan 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Steyn. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. on TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Welcome back. It's Mark Dolan in for Mark Steyn. The emails are coming in thick and fast. gbviews@gbnews.uk. This from Charlotte. And Charlotte has sent in this message. She says the Queen's legacy will live forever. This tawdry little Z-list race card carrying narcissist will never be or amount to anything other than a lesson in superficial wannabe culture. And Daisy Chick is not pulling her punches either. Don't be so utterly stupid. A 1,000-year-old monarchy versus a Z-list actress? Never. Thanks for those. Keep them coming. Welcome back to the show. How will the media react to Harry and Meghan's bombshell documentary series? Is this the beginning of the end for the couple here in Britain? If you're the editor of a best-selling tabloid newspaper, where do you take this story in the weeks and months ahead? Joining me now to answer that is a man who did just that with Charles and Diana when he was the editor of the Sun newspaper, where he broke all circulation records for the paper. Entrepreneur, journalist and co-founder of TalkSport Radio, Kelvin MacKenzie. Blimey, Kelvin, you've done quite a lot. The drinks are on you, aren't they?
Well, at my age, you have to have done something. I mean, you can't just exist, can you? No, so this is a serious thing, right? No, so it's a shocking advert. I've watched 2 of the episodes in full. It's a shocking advert for, there's 200 million subscribers to Netflix. So if anybody happens to luck on it around the world, the only impression they're going to get is that the royal family hate black people hate white people, and white people are terrible, right? It is beyond shocking. And the man who swallowed the book on this is Harry. He piles it on. Oh, I used to be a racist. I used to be this. I used to be that. I'm much better having married this woman here.
Having been re-educated.
Re-educated. And she then goes, well done, Harry. Well done. Now, you think that's funny, but then they get on a couple of Guardian, by the way, race baiters on there, a professor and some lady I can't say I've ever heard of, basically piling it all on, right? So why aren't there any other people? For instance, this is going to be a big row about this. The pressure on the royal family is going to be enormous. They should come out and bang. They should give them. They shouldn't say, never complain, never explain. No one likes us, we don't care. All that's over. This is a very dangerous area. They should get in and say X, Y, and Z. They should produce the bullying report on Meghan, just put it out there. Yeah. There'll be loads of newspapers that will be there. And there should be a campaign, and I think it's already started. So there's two kinds of campaigns. One is take the titles away from them. I think they basically have said, we've done our, we've made our 60, 70, 50 million, whatever it is from Netflix, who have allowed us to have 6 hours of PR. Fantastic. We've done that. Now, actually, take away the titles from us because we don't need them anymore. We've made our money. The other thing we should think about is basically making it clear that they're not welcome in our land. They are simply not welcome. And
well, that's what I said earlier. Forget about taking away the titles. Take the passports.
Well,
I know there are practical issues there.
That is why you're running a TV show. I suspect that may be difficult.
That was a joke, but the sentiment of it is the same, which is I don't think they're welcome here anymore.
They will not be welcome. Now, the issue then, of course, is because of the way that the schism has now been created, it's a PR schism. I mean, honestly, we'd all like to have been her, Meghan. Do you know what? The warmth towards Meghan in this country when she announced, when he announced that they were going to get married was phenomenal. I will never forget that Meghan's mum sitting in that carriage, sitting in the car and being driven along. She must have been thinking to herself, how did this all happen? How did this all happen? Right, everybody felt it. And what's clear is that Meghan comes from an actressy background. It hasn't worked out great. She's not a great big star on Netflix. There's been no rush to hire her for some major movie or anything. So she's become chippy. Along comes Harry, slightly dim, former army officer. I'd like to know how much of a great leader he was, right? And suddenly it's all started. It's great news for her, right? She stays at the front of it. She can start a political career. She can say everybody's a racist. She can come to a foreign country and say, oh, look, it's much better in the United States. I've lived in the United States, right? It is not much better. There is shocking areas where minority communities live all together in a lot of degrees of difficulty. That is not the same as over here. Over here, I am proud of the brown, the people from the Caribbean. I am proud of these people. And there was no sense of that. There was no sense that the white community want to embrace everybody. And there will be racists out there. Are you telling me there aren't brown people, black people, all kinds of people, Chinese people who don't like each other? I tell you what, could I urge anybody who feels like that in this country, go to India right now and find out how the Hindus and the Muslims, how's everybody getting on over there? There is nowhere in the world where there aren't difficulties between people of different colours, different creeds, different religions. This is a very difficult area we're in. And what she has done, once you start calling somebody a racist, how do you respond to that? You say, no, I'm not a racist. What kind of response to that? They know that.
It's a bear trap, isn't it?
It is. So you try not to get involved in it. And I remember one lady saying to me, I think you're a racist. I said, that is absolutely ridiculous. What makes you say that? She said, you look like one. Brilliant. Now, I presume what it meant was that I was kind of getting old and I was white-haired and I was white, So, but look, this is a serious thing for our country. I want to see Charles. I want to see William. I want to see somebody actually push back and say, boom, 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 and boom. This is not true.
Well, this is Charles's first great test, isn't it?
It is a test run. But if you were Charles, what would you do?
Well, that's the dilemma. He's been through a couple of prime ministers, but British politics and a creaking economy are the least of his worries. It's his own family he's got to be concerned about. I don't think you can win with this couple, because the problem is, as we mentioned earlier with Kinsey Schofield, US reporter on this subject, if you strip them of the titles, that plays into their narrative of being victims. So I wonder whether you have to just ignore this couple and wait for them to run out of material.
With racism, there is no end of material. There's always something out there. There is always some idiot out there, or something has gone wrong, or it's been misconstrued. No, I don't think so. I think you've got to stand up for your family. In the end of the day, this is his son. This is his son basically saying about A, his brother, and B, Charles, his dad, you know, look, you're a racist enterprise.
Now, I picture you back at the helm at the Sun.
Yeah.
Okay, never say
Good
never.
idea, by the way.
Has Rebecca been in touch?
Rupert, if you're watching, by the way, give us 100 million, I'll take it off your hands.
Well, listen, you could probably transform it as a brand, but where would you take the story in the next few days? Would you come out with that belligerent tone saying, come on, Charles, it's time to be tough with this couple?
Their audience will want that, right? This is their problem. Their management may not feel like that. Because then you get some media bias saying, well, you're a bit aggressive, weren't you, towards Meghan? You poor old Meghan, just trousered 80-odd million quid by getting a stupid company to pay him all that money.
This is the problem. We're daring to criticise Meghan Markle, who I consider to be Yoko Mono, right? She's the woman that broke up the royal Beatles. She split a family down the middle. And yet, if you criticise her, either you're racist or you're just a bad person. And possibly it makes you right-wing now, is the latest thing. Because I was asking Toby about that. As a support for this couple is nearly a left versus right issue.
I totally agree.
You know, but what about this, which is Diana? Invoking the memory of their mother, you, of course, made Diana a cultural figure when you were the editor of the Sun newspaper.
Well,
she adorned the front page of that paper for years, didn't she?
Did. Actually, the thing about her was she was, strangely, she was both popular and unpopular at the same time, but she was magnetic. So, but if you had nothing else to put on page one, you know, the world hadn't imploded, you know, boom, you stuck a picture of Diana on page one, the circulation would go through the roof. So it wasn't, this was led by the consumer. The consumer wanted the mum. And I thought it was quite unfair to suggest that his wife, Meghan, was the same as mum. It's ridiculous. Well, look at the rest of the family. You know, what about Kate? She came from a perfectly ordinary middle-class family, right? Right, Dad was a pretty successful business guy. She has been a fantastic model, but Meghan wanted, and I don't blame her for this, wanted her voice. And she couldn't get her voice under the royal family, so she went 6,000 miles away, and now she's got a voice, and she's trousered 80 million.
2 seconds, by the way. These attacks on Meghan are apparently racist, but what about the dog's abuse that Fergie got for years? Sarah Ferguson.
Yeah, exactly. Toe-sucking and all that old nonsense,
Yeah, well, I don't go in for that, Kelvin, not anymore. I've been married a long time.
Since I've been to the chiropodist, I go more often, though, to be honest.
Glad to hear it. The brilliant Kelvin MacKenzie. Look forward to his return very shortly. Dan Wootton is live at 9, and this is going to be must-see television. Hi, Dan.
Well, that was must-see television, Mark. Honestly, what a show. Kinsey Schofield, Kelvin MacKenzie. I was absolutely gripped. But yes, we're going blockbuster on this tonight. Obviously, it's the biggest story in the world, Harry and Meghan trying to bring down the British royal family. Of course, she also trashed her own family, especially her sister Samantha Markle. She's going to hit back live tonight in a world-exclusive interview, Mark. Plus, we've got Tom Bower, Lady Victoria Harvey, Lady Colin Campbell. Oh, and Bob Seeley. He is the Tory MP who is about to table a private member's bill to strip Harry and Meghan off their titles. So it's all going on tonight, Mark.
The incredible Dan Wootton is next. Don't miss a second. Of course, I'm back tomorrow night at the earlier time of 8 o'clock for Mark Dolan tonight. That's tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. So do join me then. My thanks to the brilliant Kelvin MacKenzie, also Toby Young, and also Kinsey Schofield. Do check out her website, To Die For Daily. Dan's next. I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Steyn. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have